Hey guys, it's Kyle. It's been a month since my first video came out, and I'm back, and I'm excited to tell you about my next thing that's on my mind. This one is a story that happened to me when I was 17, and hopefully you can do like I did and take this as kind of a metaphor for life and kind of how you can use this concept to attack daily activities and ultimately achieve success. So when I was 17, I got a job at Boeing in Renton, Washington, working as an engineering intern, and I was randomly assigned to the lead 757 engineer. And on my third day of work, we went into just your standard staff meeting, boardroom, and I was, he was going to sit at the head table next to the head engineer, and me as a 17-year-old intern, I was going to just sit in the sidewall seats. Well, when I walked in, I didn't know the protocol. With my first staff meeting, there was a table to the left filled with 3 boxes of donuts. And I saw the donuts and I was like, sweet donuts. I'm hungry. I love a donut. So I grab a donut and I sit down and eat it. And I don't pay any attention to what anybody looking at me, and I don't really know anything that comes from that. So fast forward about a week later, my boss calls me into his office and he's like, hey man, I want to talk to you about something. He's like, do you remember that staff meeting we had last week? And I did. So I was like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was, it was good or whatever. I learned X, Y, or Z. And he's like, no. He's like, when you came in, you grabbed a donut. And I was like, yeah, I grabbed a donut. There was donuts, and I grabbed one, and I sat down and ate one. He goes, yeah, that ruined everyone's world. He's like, they just shook things up. Because for some unknown reason, it's not a written rule, but it's an unwritten rule that they had established in this culture is that nobody gets a donut until the head boss grabs a donut, and that's the signal that all of you can get a donut, and we can get a donut, and at that point, it's a green light to go grab a donut. He goes, but then, in walks this 17-year-old kid, grabs a donut, breaks protocol, and sits down and eats it. And he goes, and I saw it happen, and I saw the little side conversations, and I was dying laughing inside, he said. And he goes, and afterwards, people just came straight up to me. They had nothing, they didn't have any questions for the meeting. They just wanted to know who the kid was. Who was that 17-year-old kid sitting in the sidewalk seat? And they're like, hey, is that the CEO's son? Is he, is he a Harvard kid? Who is he? He's like, this kid, he's like, he grabbed a donut, right? And he was dying laughing. He was like, and I just kind of gave him vague answers, like, oh yeah, he's a hot shot or whatever, blah blah. He's like, but I didn't tell him who you were. And he goes, that is an important life lesson. He goes, someone always has to take the first donut. He goes, that rule doesn't exist. He goes, I bet you the head boss doesn't even know that's part of the culture. And people that join this company, he goes, they just become part of the culture. They just go, oh, I want a donut. Like, oh, no, you can't have a donut. Like, we wait for the boss to get a donut, then you get a donut. And he goes, and then here comes you, just walk in and go, oh, donut, sweet, I want a donut, grab a donut, eat a donut. And he goes, there are so many things in life that people don't do because they think of limitations in their mind. He goes, there is nothing. He's like, there's literally nothing saying you can't go grab that donut, but people have self-imposed these rules on themselves to not go get it. And he goes, always remember in life, somebody has to take that first donut. Somebody has to be willing to put themselves out there, take a risk, do something outside of their comfort zone to go do it, to show everybody else that it's okay to do it. And I was like, wow. And so who knows, this 17-year-old kid, me, had no idea that going in and grabbing a sugar pill off the side of the table was going to therefore come up with this profound thing for life. But I have since used that. When I graduated college, on my wall here in my office, I have a diploma frame. And my boss from Boeing bought it for me. He showed up 4 years later when I graduated. And on the back, he wrote, I'm really proud of you, Kyle. Always remember somebody has to take the first donut. And because we both realized what that metaphor really means. And I've used that. I use that in life so many times to go, I really want to go do this. Why can't I do it? And you're like, oh, well, we've always done it this way. Or, I don't know, it's just never been done, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go do it. And yes, doing that, going and taking risk and doing something someone isn't familiar with or thinks you can't do because they've made it up in their mind, failure is right down that hallway. Like that's a huge chance that you're going to fail. But also you can succeed where nobody's succeeded. You go back to Bannister, the guy that ran the 4-minute mile. It's like they talked about, there's a famous, motivational speaker who talks about that, how now since, the 50s, there's been 20,000 kids that have broke the 4-minute mile because when they line up on the line, they know it's possible. He went out there and ate that first donut. He broke the mold, he did something, and then showed everybody, here's a flag in the ground, this is attainable, and now you can all do this. And then in their mind, it was like, oh, well, it's possible now. That's what I can do. And then they've gone and done it. And I just say do that. Go out there and find whatever your donut is and eat it. Be the first person to do it. Sure. Is it risky? Yes. Is there failure? Probably right around the corner a lot of times by doing that? Yes. There are times in life where I've done stuff and someone's grabbed me by the collar and been like, hey man, you can't do that. I'm like, oh really? Yeah, you can't eat that donut because it's written here. It says you can't eat that donut. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I alter my route and I go try and find another donut to eat. And that's really what success to me is driven on. It's not being a sheep and just kind of going through life doing what's already been done. It's finding those opportunities to go, why not? Why can't I go do that? And going and doing it. And that's really where I think I've really made had my biggest successes is by getting out of my comfort zone and doing things that scared me or were different. But in my mind, I'm like, why can't I do that? And there's been numerous times especially with my buddies Ed and Flo, where I've done things and people have looked at us because we did things weird or different and went out there and found those donuts and ate them, and people were like, hey, and the quote was, I didn't know that you could do that. And I looked at them and I go, I didn't either, but I did it. And there's a huge lesson to be learned there. It's take action, take calculated risks, but take risks as needed and go out there and do stuff. And yes, if you hit a wall and that's the end of that path, then alter it and keep going. But by doing that, you're going to get places and do things that you didn't think were possible and that others didn't think were possible, and you're really going to blaze a trail for them. You're going to show them that this is now possible, we can do this, and that we don't need to live in this, sometimes these worlds of misconceptions and false beliefs. I promise you, there's people out there that are going to watch this who work in a setting where you're doing things for no reason. It's just because someone said it was the thing to do or the culture, and you're doing it. But no one's ever stepped back and gone, well, I'm going to go do that. And then everyone's going, I didn't know you could do that. And then that becomes the course. So please, take action. A lot of people asked me on my first video, okay, I like the bell curve concept, but how do I get to that right side of the bell curve? You get there by taking action, taking risks, and going and doing where nobody else has done. And that to me is this. Don't be afraid to eat the first donut. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take action, and go out there and succeed. Find something today that scared you or that you've shut your mind down doing because for some reason you made this false belief in your mind that you couldn't do it, or because of something. Go try. And if you fail, alter your course and keep going, and you will succeed. I also got a little bit of feedback lastly on what books am I reading, because I talked about how many books I've been reading of late. And so I'm going to try and add one quick book to the end of these videos. This month I'm going with this one. It's outstanding. It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I know there's a lot of stuff on Goggins out on the internet. Please go research this man. He's an outstanding human being and arguably the most driven and hardest working person out there. What I learned from this book is just that there's so much more you can attain if you believe it. Like, your mind will go so much farther than you think it's possible. Like, just go do. He's literally done things that will blow your mind, and he did them just by sheer will and saying, why not? And that goes along the same lines with this. This is absolutely a man and a human being and a hero who goes out there daily and eats that first donut. So pick up this book and read it. I promise you it'll be worth your time. Thank you so much. I look forward to next month's video, and thank you so much for watching it. Take care. Go out there and do something awesome.